Greetings, bienvenue, come on in. Throughout the years of the Pokemon Company existing, we've seen numerous gimmicks and mechanics make their way through the Pokemon universe. I like to think all the way back to Gold and Silver when we first encountered the day-night cycle that provided a massive change to the way that we play the game. And look at us now, all these years later, with things like Mega Evolution making their third appearance, as well as Terastallization, Z-moves, Gigantamaxing, and while some of those weren't as hard-hitting as others. For example, I really didn't care for Gigantamax forms, but I learned to love them. They grew on me and are now one of my favorite mechanics. So it has us wondering, has us thinking, has us pondering. What is the next mechanic that the Pokemon Company may bring in? How are they going to challenge what they've already done in giving us something new and exciting, but also familiar and natural in a way that makes sense to the universe already established? That's kind of what we're working on today with the mechanic of Ultimate Evolution. I'm really excited for it, especially since partnering with our longtime sponsor Porico, we are now able to reach further beyond the Kanto region, into Johto, into Hoenn, into Galar, Paldea, Kalos, Unova, wherever the winds take us. And that's exactly what we're doing today. So without much further ado, let's hop right into that video. Hi, I'm the Thesterninator, but my friends call me Stern. Welcome to the channel. While you're here, don't forget to drop down below, like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff that makes me and YouTube happy, and let's find what it is to truly go further beyond. Let's start by traveling overseas to Alola, where the Porico researchers decided that they wanted to take a gander at Lycanroc. This design actually comes from a poll that I dropped on my YouTube, where I let you guys pick what the next ultimate Pokemon was going to be, and I did not anticipate that Lycanroc would come out as far ahead as it had, so I'll definitely be dropping more polls to see what you guys think the next one's gonna be, because man, it was not even close. With 48% out of the 4 options available, Lycanroc ran away with it, which brings us to our next problem here, that being that Lycanroc innately has 3 different forms. So the idea behind this ultimate was all 3 kind of compiling together into a single form towards the end of their evolutionary life cycle. The way that Ultimate Evolution works is that it is the far end form of Darwinistic evolution thrown on to Pokemon. What their final form would be had nature allowed them to continue to evolve naturalistically. So here, we had to bring in all 3 while also adding a little bit of our own. I decided that I wanted to focus on the body shape of the midday form, giving it a little bit more burl that we would see in this type of evolution, as well as throwing that midnight form's overcoat type of look on top. I also applied the larger paws from that midnight form as well. Dusk ended up being the most difficult, being that Dusk is already kind of a fusion of the 2. So we were able to kind of tie in all 3 in different and interesting ways. I decided that I wanted those big claws, those big meaty paws of Midnight over the base kind of thinner body that we see with Dusk and Midday form, and ultimately along the way trying to find out what I wanted the bigger design elements of this design to look like. Given that Lycanroc acquires some of its power from Solgaleo and Lunala, as well as its association to the stars, the planets, and specifically the moon, I really wanted to tie that into the design here. Plus, given the fact that we often try to bring in some form of energy to the designs, I decided to go with a black energy, this spacey type of vibe to the overall color of these darker sections. And it expanded even further even after finishing recording so that we could have something that feels powerful, feels unique, but still feels like it could fit in the Pokemon world as an extent evolution beyond Mega Evolution, something that nature itself in Darwinistic proportion would allow to exist. A lot of big words being thrown around. Ultimately, the idea was, how do I make this already cool Pokemon a little bit cooler? So I am pleased as punch to introduce you to Ultimate Lycanroc, the wolf Pokemon. It is still a rock type, but now we've acquired that fairy typing, as stars and space have made a little bit more of an impact onto the design here. I think this is such a cool fusion of all three with that added type of muscle figure to it, almost like the wolf DNA within this type of Pokemon is resurfacing in vibrant ways. And I decided that for the main color, the primary design, I wanted to go for that shiny type of look, given that most ultimate aliens within the Ben 10 series do change color drastically. And hey, we already kind of have that in Pokemon. So here we see that shiny color and the natural color swap places. But as the Porico motto goes, progress must continue, no matter how much the subject screams. So I decided here I would take a look at one of my favorite Pokemon, one that's been kind of forgotten to time, that being Pinsir. And I know, a lot of you are probably saying,
hey Stern, Pinsir actually got a Mega form, so doesn't that undo everything you're saying?
Yes and no. You see, as a Pinsir enjoyer, I was so let down by the Mega form. It didn't feel like Pinsir. It felt like we were throwing stuff on top of Pinsir to be able to say, look, we made a Mega, aren't you happy? And I wasn't. So this is kind of my wish fulfillment and what I wish that we would have gotten with a Mega Pinsir, but instead treating it as an ultimate form. I really like the idea because it allows us to look not just at making the Pokemon more, but making it more in very specific ways. Here we look at the Darwinistic natural selection type of idea, that those who have the larger Pinsirs would dominate and become the norm, whereas those with smaller Pinsirs would die off. In fact, I went as far as to give this guy an extra set of grabbers in the front and back, so that his entire head functions as one giant trap. Going even further than that, I played with the idea of going and giving him an added benefit. Not just are these massive crushing claws, but they're also able to conduct electricity, creating this large hoop for prey to fly through and get trapped in this electric web that it's able to create. Almost like a, you know those things that you would touch, those spheres that you would touch and they would make the electricity kind of mumble around your fingers? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Those types of things. I picture it able to generate this orb of electrical current within its headpiece that allows it to trap and hold Pokemon and prey and food better, thus changing what the entirety of the dynamic of the Pokemon is, but doing so in a way that feels like it's something that would naturally occur based on evolution. Over time, Pinsirs, I see them as growing bigger and bigger and bigger to a point where they can't sustain themselves any further and have to adapt a new way of survival and a new way of gaining mates outside of just the bigger, stronger horns. And I think that the electrical current works really well, while giving us the opportunity to add on a second typing to this design. I really like the idea, and I would be so happy to have seen something like this show up in the Mega form rather than what we got. Let me know in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you like Mega Pinsir? Did you like regular Pinsir and then love Mega Pinsir more? Or did you love regular Pinsir and hate what you saw in the Mega? Let me know. So put your cranial mandibles together for Ultimate Pinsir. Still the Stag Beetle Pokemon, but now gains that electric typing with the bug typing attached. Rather than going for the shiny Pinsir look, I decided that I wanted something that really allowed those orange electrical bits to shine through, thus making the rest of the body a little bit more of that cool blue monochrome color. Really scary and really fun. I dig this design so much, and like I said before, it is kind of just wish fulfillment for me, but hopefully it's a design that you guys love too, and would get more people to actually catch a Pinsir, especially with that BST total of 670 as we've done with our other Ultimate designs, throwing that full stat spread onto one of the stats there. His speed increases to 255, and I love him. I am so taken aback by how many people came to really enjoy these Ultimate forms. In fact, every Wednesday I do live commissions where I'm recording a live stream while you guys give me prompts to draw. And I had several people who actually came in with their favorite Pokemons prepared to be turned into Ultimate forms. And that is really cool, like Crimbo McSwizzle, who came in with the idea of this ultimate Grimmsnarl and turning this hair into these elongated arms. Rather than just being a wrapping that makes the Pokemon seem bigger and more menacing, the hair itself has become more sentient and able to be controlled as these vestigial type of limbs. And I think that is so cool. The change of color to these more cool type of tones makes him feel a little bit more wise. And when we added in that beard, just made a separation between the body and the face itself that allows us to be able to differentiate each individual part. Or when we had Too Many Bears, who hops into the stream and always gives us some phenomenal prompts as well, come in asking for Ultimate Arcanine. This one was a challenge that threw me for such a loop, but I dug it. So much fun, making that light so vibrant that it kind of blinds you when looking at it, thinking of that phosphorus type of fire and how that makes things burn so bright that it can actually damage your eyes. But looking back at what we have today, I wanted to carry in that same type of chaos and energy with our ultimate Seismitoad. Nobody asked for this, but I really had an idea that I wanted to play with. Given that Seismitoad is the vibration Pokemon, it felt odd to me that we kind of limit where we have those portions that cause the vibration. Those being the 2 points on the head, the 2 points on either arm, and potentially the smaller circles on the knees. I decided instead to give him the Rillaboom treatment and give him one big drum on his front, that being incorporated into his stomach, while turning the arms into these subwoofer style speakers on either side of the body. I thought about him as just this really cool, big, jolly DJ, and that was enough to get me to stop what I was doing, rush to my computer, and decide I have to put this on paper, because I love the design, and I feel like Seismitoad is definitely one of those Pokemon that is so often forgotten. I had one on my team in the generation where he appeared, and I want more people to appreciate him. So prepare yourselves for the beat drop, because this is Ultimate Seismitoad, the vibration Pokemon. Still a water ground type, and I always love getting to keep the main typings that we have for Pokemon, and given that Seismitoad naturally is a dual type, it played with a lot of what we were doing here in interesting ways. I wanted to make the belly kind of bluish, like how water ripples. I see a certain type of animation to the way that the blue on the stomach and the blue on the arms really moves to make it feel like those ripple in the water types of feels. For the shiny, I went with colors more associated to our regular Seismitoad, and he is a beefy boy. I picture this guy at every rave, every disco, every DJ booth in his respective region, because he is a music maestro and, man, just a cool design. I'm really happy with it. Real quick, wanted to let you know in case you haven't yet, drop down below and subscribe to the channel. If you like this content, I want you guys to be alerted whenever new content drops. For example, in just a couple days, we're going to be releasing our Stranger Things as Pokemon video. That is a ton of fun. I've actually been working on that for like 2.5 weeks, which is a long time for me working on one of these videos. So I'm really excited for you guys to see what comes of that. So make sure that you're subscribed. That way you can be alerted whenever these new videos dropped, and I'll let you get back to the video. Thanks, Stern from the past. This is Stern from the future, calling to let you know we found a cure. You're gonna be regular now. Anyway, when looking at Pokemon that we're going to give ultimate forms to, I decided I wanted to tackle one that has received no Mega Evolution, no Gigantamax form, no specialized Z move, that being Druddigon. I love him. I want to hug him, but I won't because he's sharp and it will hurt my soft and frail body. So I decided, why don't we build on top of that? Extend what makes Druddigon Druddigon. I've seen a number of people turn different Pokemon into gargoyle-like aesthetic, but I feel like Druddigon really fits that vibe. He is harsh, he is shaped very angularly, feels very much like something that would be carved. So I went in with that gargoyle type of aesthetic, but found very quickly upon coloring that while it is a cool idea, in practice it becomes very difficult to make the design feel energetic, to make it feel like something that I can be excited for. So I decided to dive even deeper, look at that evolutionary quality that we see with Darwinistic evolution. How would he adapt and evolve to where becoming a gargoyle would be the best case scenario? What if the gargoylism was just a secondary trait? What if he became so harsh, so sharp, so hardened, that parts of his body actually became as hard and as shiny as diamond, with the rest having to compensate by becoming like stone? I decided that the head and portions of the body where we have these outcroppings of sharper extremities would become diamond-esque, and in keeping with our ultimate forms, giving those kind of this flowing energy amidst them. So it was really cool and really fun to experiment all the way through and play with the ideas that I went in with, figuring out where I was wrong and where I needed to restructure the thought process of the Pokemon. I even decided to give him this hunched over quality that made him feel very much more gargoyle-like, and made him feel like he's something that you'd be excited to see pop out of a Pokeball. Speaking of which, I've had a lot of people ask the question, is Ultimate Evolution something permanent? No, I see it as a temporary state that a Pokemon can enter when exposed temporarily to the Ultimate Stone, which has been called Ultimadium. When Ultimadium is in its presence, this Pokemon is able to go through this drastic change, which we've seen affect not only their physical forms, but also their stats. Speaking of which, he's bigger, he's badder, ladies and gentlemen, he's too much for Lance to handle. That is Ultimate Druddigon, the cave Pokemon, now a Dragon Rock type. The shiny takes in the original Druddigon colors with the primary state of the Pokemon, really giving that cool gray type of energy to it. I love those rainbow diamonds, and I would love to see them in action in battle. I think that this is definitely one of my favorites, at least of this video. We've worked on so many Ultimates, and it feels like each and every time that we do, we learn a little bit more about how they function. I learn a little bit more about the design style that goes into them. Am I gonna forgive the Pokemon Company for Mega Victory Bell? No, but I understand. We are now officially 5 Pokemon in, and I could definitely go for a nice, refreshing bowl of food-based Pokemon. Yes, we are looking at Vanillux for this design, and how to expand upon that. Don't click away. I know people don't like Vanillux. It often falls into that category of Pokemon that people take huge issue with. So, how do we fix that? Well, when we look at the line for Vanillux, we see that it goes from Vanillite, where there's a single little dollop of ice cream, Vanillish, which is a shaved ice or bowl full of ice cream, and then we have Vanillux, which is 2 scoops of ice cream. So clearly, to expand upon this idea, we should go, hold for it, 3 scoops of ice cream. But as I began to think about it, I realized 3 scoops of ice cream is damn near close to perfect banana splitification. So why not make this entire design into a sundae, into a banana split, into a much larger, more confectionarily superior type of dessert item? So I decided to do that. In fact, I decided that on the central scoop, which is often the scoop that has whipped cream, cherry toppings, what have you to it, we were gonna draw back to our earlier forms, that being Vanillite. Placing that as the head of this overall design really gives me the modern day type of energy that we get from Pokemon Legends ZA designs, where they're trying to harken back to some of the previous forms, like we see with Mega Feraligatr. So I wanted to kind of bring in that same type of idea here, hopefully in a more successful way, by topping our 3 scoops of ice cream with a big master and most superior Vanillite design to the top. And it was a ton of fun. This one was mainly just for fun, but as I continued to work on it, I found myself growing attached. And so, I don't know. Would I have it on my team personally? Probably not, but still, very fun design, very fun characters, and whenever we get the chance to draw back on our previous forms of the same Pokemon, I get really excited. It's something about being able to head nod or hat tilt down to those lines that came before, and it makes it feel like there is just so much more connection to the entirety of the line. And with that adaptive behavior, Ice Cream really doesn't fall into the survival of the fittest natural selection type of mentality, but if it did, I picture you were always gonna go for the bigger Ice Cream. Thus, throughout the course of evolution, the bigger Vanilluxes often survived, and therefore were able to procreate into these 3 scooped monstrosities. I hope you've saved room for dessert, because here is Ultimate Vanillux. Always the ice type, but now gaining that fairy typing, as most food Pokemon do. Still the snowstorm Pokemon, and for the shiny, I went with a strawberry red topping with kind of this grayish type of goo to the other two sides. I'm told that the gray stuff is delicious, but I'm curious what the abilities for this Pokemon and the rest in today's video would be. We're not anywhere near done, but I always like to ask this question, because for a Pokemon that has 3 distinct flavors with a chocolate coating on top, it feels like there should be a specialized ability there, and that's really not my specific forte, so I'm curious. Let me know down in the comments what you think. What abilities would you give Ultimate Vanillux, as well as the other Ultimates in this video? Alright, I have to admit something, you guys. I cheated just a little bit. I stated at the beginning of this video that I hosted a poll where you guys would pick what would be in this video, and Machamp was on that poll, but he didn't win. I just really liked the design that I came up with, so I decided to incorporate it either way. A couple people on the Discord did ask, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you did all of them? And I joked that I would do all of them. And I did do all of them. Yeah, so Gardevoir, Lugia, the rest who were on that poll all got drawn, but as I stated to Discord, I ended up throwing the rest that didn't win into the recycle bin, and then emptying that recycle bin so that the data may be freely shared amongst the populace. So that's what happened. But Machamp, I really wanted to keep. One of my favorite Pokemon who has gotten some pretty good treatment throughout the years, throughout the anime, throughout the series of games, throughout the spin-offs. Machamp feels like he's kind of there. He's kind of one of those stagnant Pokemon that we always kind of know about in the background. Even getting a Gigantamax form, which was one of my absolute favorite Gigantamax forms. And I wanted to throw some of that flavor and energy into this design as well, without copying and fully mimicking what we'd already seen. Still, a couple things that I wanted to bring into this design from that were the tights, the way that the pants kind of reformed in the Mega form. I really liked that a lot. I love the extension of the fin, and while I do like the glowing yellow fists that we get in Mega Machamp, I didn't want to apply that one for one here. I instead decided to give him these energy fists, looking at different anime takes where you have the character throwing 1,000 fists at once, or appearing as if they do because they're striking just so fast. I thought about Machamp as our superpower Pokemon, physically being able to do that, throw thousands of punches using the fighting energy welled up within him. Maybe now he'll be able to finally take on that Mega Hawlucha, but yet to be determined. I also wanted to bring in some parts from his previous form with Machoke by giving him these rips to the muscles, not putting them all the way down the arms, but giving it just to the bicep areas so that there was that connective tie between the two, but still a sense of growth. After all, like I've said, these are meant to adapt and evolve over time and over the course of natural selection, so rips and tears through the musculature feels like it's something that would have been weeded out, but also would kind of remove some of what makes the line what it is. So I added them there as well. Not a ton changed between this and regular Machamp, but I feel like that's okay. We see a lot of Mega forms as well as Gigantamax forms that don't feel too far removed from their original designs, and having one or two that still fits that energy I feel is perfectly okay, especially if it means that I get to talk about Machamp for 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Let's get ready to Pokemon Rumble with Ultimate Machamp, the superpower Pokemon. Still a standard fighting type, but that shiny introduces a golden physique, like a golden god in wrestling, or how they really want to get that bronzish hue to those famous pro wrestlers. For his sizing, he is quite a bit bigger than a normal person, and those energy fists were so perfect, so fun to draw, and really sell the design. I feel like those are where we are applied so much more flavor. And as you know, and as I've stated in previous videos, the way that Ultimatium works with a Pokemon is that it is a fraction of Arceus's power, and thus we get those boosts to different stat values. Here, of course, he's pure fighting type. He's gonna get a maximum boost to his attack, and I wouldn't want to get in his way. So who is your favorite? Who are you adding onto the team? Let me know down in the comments below. And hey, before you get all the way down there, consider stopping by the description where you can find various opportunities to support the channel. One of those options is to become a Patreon supporter. Right now at different tiers, Patreon supporters get high resolution images and early access to videos, as well as Photoshop files for videos just like this. You like the art? You want to learn how to do it? That is the best way to learn, is looking at the layers and structures that build these Pokemon images into play. Or you can become a YouTube member who also get videos early, but additionally get to take part in our Stern Conversations podcast, having their questions asked and answered. Next week, you're going to be showing Lissertino and everything that she's been working on. That's just genuinely amazing stuff. She's a great artist, and I cannot wait for you to see the video. But with all that said, it sounds like you know where to find me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.